You know what's strange? The world tells you life begins at 20, but your soul disagrees. It's quiet. It waits. It watches you hustle, perform, achieve, break. And then when you've had enough pretending, enough performing for the world, that's when your real life begins. Not at 20, not even at 30, but at 40. At 40, your soul finally has a voice loud enough to be heard. Now, if you've stumbled upon this video, this isn't by accident. This is divine timing. Because some things can only be heard when your spirit is ripe, when your old skin has cracked, and the truth inside you is finally ready to step out. So before we go any further, subscribe to this channel right now. Not just for the content, but because you're stepping into a community that sees what others overlook. You're not just watching a video, you're remembering something you've always known deep inside. So let me begin with a story. A man once walked into a temple, frustrated, broken, 42 years old. He'd spent decades building a life that didn't fit him. Wife, kids, job, image. He had it all, yet something inside him was dead. He dropped to his knees before a silent altar and whispered, "I don't even know who I am anymore." A monk passing by didn't even look at him. He just said, "Good. Now we can begin." Because the truth is this: the beginning of a chosen one's life always starts at the death of the false self. And that death usually comes right around 40. You see, if you are a chosen one, and you'll know it if this is stirring your spirit right now, then your life is not meant to follow the common path. You are not wired for mediocrity, for surface level living, or scripted existence. You were set apart, hidden, prepared. That's why nothing ever really fit. That's why relationships left you feeling misunderstood. That's why chasing success felt like chasing smoke. But at 40, you begin to feel something shift inside you. It's subtle at first, then it becomes a whisper, then a knock, then a thunderstorm you can't ignore. It says you've carried enough, now let it go. Let go of what you ask? Let me tell you, the first sign that you are awakening at 40 is that you stop fearing loss. You begin to understand that the people who left were never meant to stay, that the job you lost was never your true mission, that the version of yourself you kept trying to be was never real to begin with. You begin to master the sacred art of letting go. And don't be fooled, my friend. Letting go is not weakness. It is not giving up. It is opening your hands so heaven can place something greater in them. You start shedding layers, beliefs, titles, expectations, like a snake shedding skin or a soul shedding illusion. And it hurts. Oh yes, it hurts. But you know what hurts more? Living a lie for one more year. So you rip off the mask, you step out of the performance, you walk away from the roles that no longer fit. And in that moment, you begin. The second shift that happens at 40 is even more powerful. You stop being a prisoner of the clock. You no longer feel that ticking panic that haunted your 20s and 30s. You don't panic about where you should be or what society says you should have accomplished. You finally understand something most people never do. Time is not your master. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you're supposed to be, because time is not linear for a chosen soul. Time is divine. It unfolds around you, within you, through you. And when you trust that, your anxiety melts, your doubt crumbles, your urgency turns into presence. You stop asking, "When will it happen?" And you begin saying, "I'm ready whenever it does." Because at 40, you no longer rush to get there. You realize there is no there. There's only this breath, this moment, this divine now. And the now is holy. Now listen to me carefully. If this resonates with you, if your soul is burning, your heart pounding, your eyes wet with realization, type 1111 in the comments right now. It's not a superstition. It's a declaration. It says, "I see, I remember, I'm ready." And subscribe, because we're just getting started. What comes next may shake your worldview, because there's a reason you felt like you don't belong. There's a reason you've always felt like you were meant for something more. You're not imagining it. You've been in hiding, but the hiding is over. You're still here. Good. Because most people wouldn't make it past the first part. They'd click away, scroll past, dismiss it as another feel-good message. But not you. You stayed. Because something in your spirit said, "This isn't just a video. This is a mirror." And if part of you feels like your whole life has been building up to this moment, you're not wrong, because it has. Let me tell you something strange, something real. I once sat with a man who had built an empire. By 39, he was a multimillionaire, owned properties on 3 continents, married to someone society would call perfect. But at 42, he walked away from it all, left the money, left the marriage, even left his own name. When I asked him why, he simply said, "Because everything I built was a cage. And when you're chosen, my friend, no matter how beautiful the cage looks, you will never be able to breathe inside it." This is the third shift at 40. You remember your purpose, and not a career, not a title, not a job description. I'm talking about your divine assignment. You see, chosen ones rarely know their purpose in their 20s. Why? Because they're too busy surviving what others never have to face. They carry ancestral wounds, they wrestle with rejection, they question their very existence. But here's the mystery. All of it was part of the design. Every pain, every silence, every betrayal, it carved something into you. It carved depth. And now at 40, the fog begins to lift, and you see it. Not all at once, no, but the threads start connecting. You realize that strange fascination you had as a child? That wasn't random. That book you stumbled on in your 20s, that was a seed. That loss in your 30s, that was initiation. Because now you're not just surviving anymore. You're seeing, you're remembering, and your soul starts whispering, "It's time." But let me warn you, there's a dangerous temptation that shows up here. Validation, that sly, seductive need to be understood, to be applauded, to be told, "Yes, you're on the right track." And that's where many chosen ones fall. They trade their calling for claps. They exchange their inner truth for outer applause. But at 40, if you're ready, you will feel another shift. A bold, terrifying one. You stop needing validation because you finally understand. Most people were never meant to see what you see. Your frequency was never meant to be broadcast on their channel. And that's okay. You stop explaining yourself. You stop arguing your path. You stop shrinking your truth to make others comfortable. And the moment you do that, you get your power back. You no longer ask permission to be who you are. You are. And when you speak, the ground trembles. When you move, the room shifts, because now you move from your soul, not your ego. And that is unstoppable. But there's something even more mysterious that happens at 40, something few talk about. Your spiritual awakening doesn't just begin, it intensifies. You start seeing patterns in the chaos. You begin noticing numbers, symbols, dreams that feel prophetic. Synchronicities stack like dominoes. Songs speak directly to your situation, and you begin to sense you are not walking alone. You never were. The veil gets thinner, your intuition becomes sharper. You say things that surprise even you because they didn't come from your brain. They came from somewhere deeper. And in the silence of your solitude, you begin to feel it. Presence, call it God, call it source, call it the divine. But now you know it's real because it speaks to you, not in booming voices or flashes of lightning, but in stillness, in knowing, in peace. Let me share something ancient with you. There's a parable in the Gnostic Gospels, long hidden from common scripture. It speaks of a man who wore a royal robe, but lived among beggars. He forgot who he was. He ate what they ate. He begged as they begged, until one day a letter came from the king, his father, and in it said, "Remember who you are. The robe is waiting. The ring is ready. Come home." And in that moment, he remembered. He stood up, and the world looked at him and said, "Who do you think you are?" He said nothing. He just walked straight into destiny. That is what 40 is. It's the letter from the king. And if this is landing deep in your chest, if something in you is trembling, shaking, waking up, type 1111 in the comments. It's more than a number. It's a yes. A yes to destiny, a yes to truth, a yes to home. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel right now. Because we're not done, not even close. There's more to uncover. And in the next part, we'll go deeper into the power of energy, the mystery of solitude, and the final awakening that allows you to finally live for you. But I'll leave you with this. You were never late. You were being prepared. And now you're being called. You're still here. And that tells me something. You're not just listening to words anymore. You're hearing a voice your soul has always known. The voice that was buried under responsibilities, smothered beneath expectations, muted by the noise of a world that never knew your name. But now that voice is rising, and it's saying something you've waited decades to hear. You are not broken. You are becoming. Let's talk about something most people overlook. Yet it changes everything once you reach this point. Your energy. At 40, something radical happens. Your energy becomes precise, focused, potent, no longer scattered, no longer leaking through guilt, people pleasing, or endless distractions. You start walking into a room and instantly feel who's draining you. You start reading a message and know whether it's worth replying to. You hear someone speak and sense what's behind the words they didn't say. It's not paranoia, it's not sensitivity, it's discernment, and it's spiritual. Because now you realize your energy is your currency. And every time you give it to someone or something that's not aligned with your destiny, you are making a withdrawal from your soul. So you stop. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop defending your distance. You stop apologizing for needing peace. You guard your space like a temple because you finally remembered you are one. That brings me to something sacred, something most of the world fears: solitude. But not you. At 40, solitude becomes your sanctuary. Not a prison, but a portal. You no longer fear being alone because you now understand alone is where the truth lives. It's where your soul speaks clearly. It's where the noise dies down. It's where the illusions collapse. You sit in silence and something happens. You begin to see yourself, not the version people told you to be, but the raw, radiant essence of who you are beneath it all. And it hits you. You've never really been alone. Not once. Not in your darkest night. Not in your deepest failure. Spirit has been with you. Angels have walked beside you. God has whispered over your life, even when you couldn't hear it. There's a story told in ancient Jewish mysticism about a prophet who wandered the desert for 40 years, not because he was lost, but because he needed to become empty enough to be filled with something greater. And at the end of that wandering, he stood on a mountain, and there he heard the voice of God, not in the fire, not in the wind, not in the earthquake, but in the still small whisper. That's how the chosen are called, not with noise, but with clarity. And it often takes 40 years to quiet the world enough to finally hear it. And now the final shift, the one that changes everything, the one that sets you free. You finally live for yourself. No more performing, no more pleasing, no more waiting for someone to tell you you're allowed to want this. You wake up and realize that you don't need anyone's permission to be happy. You stop living life as a reaction. You start living life as a creation. You no longer ask, what does the world want from me? Instead, you ask, what does my soul want to create, to feel, to experience before I leave this world? And when that switch flips, everything changes. You take the trip, you write the book, you forgive the past, you say the hard truth, you cut the ties, you dance in your living room again, you breathe deeper than you have in decades, because you know you're not here to survive the world, you're here to change it, just by being fully, unapologetically you. So if you're 40, or near it, or past it, this is not your ending. This is not too late. This is not the back half of your story. This is the beginning. This is where life gets real. This is where the masks fall off. This is where heaven says, now you're ready. Everything before this was training. Everything before this was foundation. And now the structure can rise. The real mission begins. The real you awakens. The world has no idea what's coming. But you do, because you can feel it, can't you? That fire inside you, that quiet power, that undeniable sense that you were chosen for something more. So now it's your turn. If this message has touched you, stirred you, made you cry, made you remember, type "1111" in the comments. Let the world know you heard the call, you didn't ignore it, you said yes. And don't just stop there. Subscribe to this channel because we're building a movement of awakened souls, people who know their time is now, people who are tired of pretending, people who are ready to walk in truth, walk in fire, walk in purpose. We're not done, we're just beginning. The best chapter of your life starts now. And I can promise you this, the world hasn't seen the real you, but it's about to.